Poor girl in a wheelchair didn't know she had a father until she met him at her mother's grave. Before the story begins, let us know in the comments where in the world you're tuning in from. Now, sit back and enjoy. Sunflower Home stood quietly on Maple Street, its faded yellow paint somehow making it look even more inviting in the autumn sunshine. Inside, 9-year-old Lily Montgomery sat by the window, her small fingers tracing raindrops on the glass. Her wheelchair positioned perfectly so she could watch children playing in the yard. "Lily, sweetheart, it's time for breakfast," called Mrs. Harrison, the home's director, a kind-faced woman in her 50s whose smile lines told stories of years spent nurturing children who needed love. Lily spun her wheelchair around with practiced ease, her chestnut hair bouncing in 2 slightly uneven braids she'd insisted on doing herself. "Coming, Mrs. Harrison." Her voice was clear and bright, belying the sadness that sometimes lingered in her deep blue eyes. The dining hall buzzed with the morning energy of 20 children, each with their own story of loss or abandonment. Yet among them, Lily stood out, not because of her wheelchair, but because of her unwavering optimism. She greeted everyone with a smile, helping younger children with their breakfast when she could, offering a napkin here, a word of encouragement there. "Today is a special day," Mrs. Harrison announced, sitting beside Lily after the morning rush. "Do you remember what day it is?" Lily nodded solemnly. "It's my mother's anniversary." She didn't need to say more. Everyone at Sunflower Home knew that Lily's mother had died giving birth to her. And as far as Lily knew, there was no other family, just the faded photograph of a beautiful woman with the same deep blue eyes that Lily saw in the mirror every day. "I thought we might visit her," Mrs. Harrison suggested gently. "Put some flowers on her grave, would you like that?" Lily's eyes widened with surprise and hope. In all her 9 years, she'd never visited her mother's grave. "Really? We can go there?" "Of course. I think you're old enough now." Mrs. Harrison squeezed her hand. "We'll go this afternoon, just the 2 of us." As Lily returned to her room to prepare, her mind swirled with questions she'd always been too afraid to ask. Who was her mother, really? Why wasn't there any family left? And the question that haunted her most nights as she lay awake listening to the other children's steady breathing. Why was she alone in the world? Little did she know that this gray Sunday afternoon would change everything she thought she knew about herself, her past, and her future. Rain tapped softly against the car windows as Mrs. Harrison drove toward Oakland Cemetery. Lily sat quietly, in the passenger seat, her small hands clutching a bouquet of daisies, her favorite flowers, though she wasn't sure if they had been her mother's favorites too. "What was she like?" Lily asked, breaking the silence that had settled between them. Mrs. Harrison smiled gently. "Your mother was kind and brave. I only met her once when she came to discuss arrangements. Just in case." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Olivia knew her pregnancy was high risk, but she was determined to bring you into this world." Lily absorbed this, adding another precious detail to the sparse collection she had about her mother. "Do I look like her?" "Your eyes?" Mrs. Harrison nodded. "Exactly the same beautiful blue, like looking at the sky on a clear summer day." The cemetery came into view, its wrought iron gates standing solemnly against gray clouds. Mrs. Harrison parked as close as possible to make the journey easier for Lily's wheelchair. "It's in the eastern section," she explained, carefully helping Lily into her chair. "Under the old oak tree." They made their way along the stone path, Mrs. Harrison pushing Lily's wheelchair through occasional patches of wet leaves. The rain had reduced to a fine mist, hanging in the air like a veil between worlds. As they rounded a corner toward a massive oak tree, Lily gasped softly. A tall man in a dark suit stood before a simple headstone, his shoulders slightly hunched as he placed a bouquet of pristine white lilies at its base. "Someone's there," Lily whispered. Mrs. Harrison slowed their approach, uncertainty crossing her features. "Perhaps we should wait." But it was too late. The man had heard them and turned around. When his eyes fell on Lily, the color drained from his face. He staggered slightly, one hand reaching out to steady himself against the headstone. Impossible, he whispered, his voice barely audible over the soft patter of rain. Something about his stunned expression made Lily's heart beat faster. Mrs. Harrison stepped protectively closer to Lily's chair. "Excuse us," she began. "We didn't mean to intrude." "Those eyes," the man interrupted, his gaze fixed on Lily. "You have her eyes." "Who are you?" Mrs. Harrison asked, stepping defensively in front of Lily's wheelchair. The man straightened himself, professional composure returning to his features despite the shock still evident in his eyes. "I'm Dr. Jackson Bennett," he replied, his voice steadier now. I am, Olivia's husband." A heavy silence fell over them, broken only by the soft patter of rain on leaves. Lily's small fingers tightened around the daisies in her lap as she processed what she'd just heard. "That's not possible," Mrs. Harrison finally said. "Olivia's records indicated she was a widow." Jackson's expression darkened. "I assure you, I'm very much alive." He knelt down slowly, bringing himself to Lily's eye level. "What's your name?" "Lily," she whispered. "Lily Montgomery." Something flashed across his face, recognition, pain, wonder. "Montgomery was Olivia's maiden name," he said quietly. "When were you born, Lily?" "October 15th, Mrs. Harrison answered for her. 9 years ago." Jackson closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, they glistened with unshed tears. "The day Olivia died." Lily found her voice, small but clear. "Are you saying you're my father?" Jackson nodded, a single tear finally breaking free. "I was told you died with your mother. They said neither of you survived the complications." Mrs. Harrison looked stunned. "The hospital told us Olivia had no living family, that her husband had died months before in an accident." "Someone lied," Jackson said, his voice hardening. "I've been putting flowers on my wife's grave for 9 years, believing my child was buried with her." A gust of wind sent a shower of raindrops from the branches above, but no one moved. In that moment, time seemed suspended as 3 lives intersected in a way none of them could have imagined. "Can I?" Jackson hesitated, then continued. "May I touch your hand, Lily?" Lily glanced up at Mrs. Harrison, who gave a small nod. Slowly, she extended her hand toward this stranger who might be her father. His larger hand enveloped hers gently, as if she might break. "You have her hands too," he whispered. "Small but strong." Then, as if a dam had broken, Jackson Bennett, renowned surgeon, composed professional, began to cry openly, still holding his daughter's hand. Lily, witnessing this man's raw emotion, felt something stir inside her, a sense of connection she'd never experienced before. Without fully understanding why, she extended her other hand, still clutching the daisies, and offered them to him. "I brought these for her," she said, "but maybe we can share." The next day found Lily sitting nervously in the Sunflower Home's small meeting room. Mrs. Harrison had arranged for Jackson to visit properly, away from the rain and emotional shock of their cemetery encounter. "He'll be here soon," Mrs. Harrison said, straightening Lily's collar unnecessarily. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Lily nodded, though butterflies swarmed in her stomach. "What should I call him?" "Whatever feels right," Mrs. Harrison answered gently. There's no rule book for this situation. Before Lily could respond, there was a knock at the door. Jackson Bennett entered, looking different from yesterday, less formal in a blue sweater, though still carrying himself with a doctor's composed posture. In his hands was a small photo album and a box wrapped in silver paper. "Hello, Lily," he said, his voice warm but uncertain. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." Lily managed a shy smile. "Hello, Dr. Bennett." "Jackson, please," he corrected softly, taking the seat across from her. "Or, whatever makes you comfortable." For a moment, silence filled the room as they studied each other, the father who never knew his child lived and the daughter who never knew her father existed. "I brought something," Jackson said finally, sliding the photo album toward her. "Pictures of your mother. I thought you might like to see them." Lily's hands trembled slightly as she opened the album, The first photo showed a laughing woman with Lily's same deep blue eyes standing on a beach, her chestnut hair blowing in the wind. That was our honeymoon, Jackson explained. Olivia loved the ocean. Page after page revealed the mother Lily had never known. Olivia in a hospital coat. She was a pediatrician. Olivia painting a nursery wall. She was so excited about you. Olivia and Jackson at a Christmas party, her hand resting protectively over a slightly rounded belly. She was beautiful, Lily whispered. Yes, Jackson agreed, emotion thick in his voice. And she would have loved you so much. As Lily turned the last page, a question burned in her throat. Why did someone lie? About you being dead and me too? Jackson's expression darkened. I don't know yet, but I promise you I'm going to find out. He pushed the silver package toward her. This was hers. I've kept it all these years thinking. He couldn't finish. Lily carefully unwrapped it, revealing a delicate music box with a silver ballet dancer on top. When she opened it, a gentle melody filled the room. Claire de Lune. Her favorite, Jackson said softly. For the first time since meeting him, Lily felt something shift inside her, like a puzzle piece finally finding its place. She looked up at this stranger who was her father and asked the question that mattered most. Are you going to stay? Over the next few weeks, Jackson became a regular visitor at Sunflower Home. Today, he arrived with a small gift bag, finding Lily in the common room finishing her math homework. Multiplication? He asked, pulling up a chair beside her wheelchair. Lily nodded. Times tables. I'm stuck on sevens. I have a trick for that, Jackson offered, showing her a finger-counting method that made her giggle. The sound of her laughter still surprised him. How familiar it seemed, how much it echoed Olivia's. Mrs. Harrison observed them from the doorway, her expression a mixture of happiness and concern. She'd seen too many children experience false hopes to be entirely comfortable, but she couldn't deny the genuine connection forming between father and daughter. I brought something for you, Jackson said when they finished the math problems. He handed Lily the gift bag. Inside was a framed photograph of Olivia, one that hadn't been in the album, showing her in a hospital coat, kneeling beside a child in a wheelchair. Your mother specialized in working with children with physical disabilities, Jackson explained softly. She believed everyone deserved the same opportunities regardless of physical limitations. Lily traced her mother's face in the photograph. Is that why you became a doctor too? Actually, she became a doctor because of me. Jackson smiled. We met in medical school. But yes, her passion influenced me greatly. A comfortable silence settled between them until Lily asked the question that had been on her mind for days. Have you found out anything? About why they told you I died? Jackson's expression tightened. I've been investigating. The hospital records are confusing. There was a terrible accident that night. A power outage during a storm. Multiple emergency cases arriving simultaneously. Somehow in the chaos, your birth records were mixed up with another infant who didn't survive. So it was a mistake? Lily asked. A mistake that changed our lives, Jackson replied, his voice strained. Someone should have verified, should have double-checked. Sensing his rising anger, Lily reached out and placed her small hand on his. But we found each other now. Jackson's expression softened immediately. Yes, we did. He hesitated before continuing. Lily, I was wondering if you might like to visit my home sometime. It's not far from here, and I thought... Yes, Lily interrupted, eyes bright with excitement. Then, remembering her manners, she added more composed, I'd like that very much. As Jackson left that afternoon, he stopped to speak with Mrs. Harrison. Thank you, he said simply, for taking care of her when I couldn't. Mrs. Harrison nodded. She's a special child. But Jackson, please be certain about this relationship. Lily has experienced enough loss already. I've never been more certain of anything in my life, he replied, his voice firm with resolve. She's my daughter, and I'm never going to lose her again. The following Saturday, Mrs. Harrison helped Lily get ready for her first visit to Jackson's Home. Lily wore her favorite purple dress and Mrs. Harrison had styled her hair in a neat braid intertwined with a ribbon. "Do I look okay?" Lily asked anxiously, smoothing her dress over her lap. "You look beautiful," Mrs. Harrison assured her, adjusting the ribbon one last time. "Remember, just be yourself. That's who he wants to know." When Jackson arrived, his face lit up seeing Lily so dressed up. "You look wonderful," he said, presenting her with a small corsage of violets. "These reminded me of your dress from last week." The drive to Jackson's home was filled with Lily's excited questions about the neighborhood, the house, and whether there were other children nearby. Jackson answered patiently, occasionally glancing in the rearview mirror to catch her expressions of wonder as they entered a neighborhood of large, stately homes. "This is where you live?" Lily asked as they pulled into a circular driveway before an imposing two-story brick house with perfectly manicured gardens. "It's just a house," Jackson said, suddenly self-conscious about its grandeur. Not really a home until now. Inside, the house was immaculate. Hardwood floors gleamed. Artwork hung perfectly positioned on walls. Furniture looked barely used. It was beautiful, but felt more like a museum than a place where someone lived. "I had some modifications made," Jackson explained, showing her a newly installed ramp at the back entrance and widened doorways. "The contractor is coming next week to lower some of the countertops and install grab bars in the bathroom." Lily felt a strange mix of emotions, appreciation for his thoughtfulness, wonder at the luxury, but also a sense of alienation. This pristine place was nothing like the warm, chaotic Sunflower home. "Would you like to see your room?" Jackson asked tentatively. "My room? Well, it would be yours. When you visit," he clarified quickly. "Or if, sometime, you wanted to stay longer." He led her to a bedroom that had clearly been hastily converted from an office. The walls were still a corporate beige, but a colorful quilt brightened the bed, and several stuffed animals sat arranged on pillows. "I wasn't sure what you'd like," Jackson admitted. "The salesperson recommended these for a 9-year-old girl." Lily wheeled herself around the room, taking it in. Everything was new. Tags still on the stuffed animals, price stickers barely hidden on the lamp base. "It's very nice," she said politely. Lunch was served in a formal dining room by a housekeeper Lily hadn't known existed until that moment. Jackson, noticing her discomfort with the formal setting, suggested they eat in the kitchen instead, where the atmosphere felt slightly more relaxed. "Lily," he said carefully as they finished dessert, "I've been researching some new treatments for spinal injuries. There are specialists in Switzerland doing remarkable work with children your age." Lily's spoon froze halfway to her mouth. "Treatments? You mean, to fix me?" "To help you," Jackson corrected quickly. "To possibly improve your mobility." "You want to change me," Lily said quietly, placing her spoon down. "No, I just want to give you every opportunity. Mrs. Harrison says I'm perfect just as I am." Jackson's face fell. "Of course you are. I didn't mean to suggest otherwise." But something had shifted, a small crack appearing in their newly forming bond. The drive back to Sunflower home was quieter than the journey out. Lily gazed out the window, her earlier excitement dampened. Jackson gripped the steering wheel tightly, mentally replaying his misstep. "Lily," he finally said, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you." She turned to him, her blue eyes serious. "My legs don't work right, but that doesn't mean I need fixing." "You're absolutely right," Jackson acknowledged. "Your mother would have said the same thing." This caught Lily's attention. "She would?" "Definitely. She always said doctors were too quick to see what needed fixing instead of seeing the whole person." He smiled sadly. "She'd be disappointed in me right now." Lily considered this. "It's okay to make mistakes. Mrs. Harrison says that's how we learn." Jackson felt humbled by her capacity for forgiveness. "Mrs. Harrison is very wise." When they arrived back at Sunflower home, Jackson handed Lily a small package. "I forgot to give you this earlier." Inside was a framed photograph of Olivia, pregnant and glowing, sitting at a piano. "She used to play for you before you were born," Jackson explained. Said you would kick in rhythm. As Lily studied the picture, Jackson's phone rang. Excusing himself, he stepped away to answer it. His expression grew increasingly grave as he listened. "I'll be right there," he said, ending the call. Kneeling beside Lily, he explained, "I have to go to the hospital, emergency surgery. Can we continue this another day?" After Jackson left, Mrs. Harrison found Lily in her room, staring at the new photograph. "How was your visit?" she asked gently. "His house is big and fancy," Lily said, "but it doesn't feel like anyone lives there." "That's common for people who are alone," Mrs. Harrison offered. "Sometimes it's easier to make a house perfect when you don't really live in it." He wanted to. "Take me to Switzerland to fix my legs," Lily admitted quietly. Mrs. Harrison sat beside her. "And how did that make you feel?" "Like I wasn't good enough as I am," Lily whispered. But then he said Mom would have thought that was wrong too. Later that night, as Mrs. Harrison checked on the sleeping children, she found Lily's light still, and the girl was writing in a journal surrounded by both new and old photographs of her mother. "Couldn't sleep?" Mrs. Harrison asked. Lily shook her head. "I found something in the back of this frame," she said, holding up the piano photograph. "It was hidden behind the picture." She handed Mrs. Harrison a folded note in elegant handwriting. "To my darling child, may you always hear the music in life, even when others only hear noise. All my love, Mom." As Mrs. Harrison read the words aloud, tears filled her eyes. "Your mother knew exactly who you would become, Lily, and she loved you for it, exactly as you are." That night, Lily fell asleep holding both the photograph and the note, feeling closer to her mother than ever before, and understanding her father a little better too. 2 weeks later, Lily noticed a change in Jackson. His visits were more frequent, and he seemed more relaxed, less like the formal doctor and more like a regular dad. Today, he arrived carrying a rolled-up blueprint. "What's that?" Lily asked as he spread it across the common room table. "Plans for my house," Jackson replied, eyes bright with excitement. "I've been working with an architect who specializes in accessible design." Lily studied the drawings curiously. She could see that the entire ground floor was being reconfigured. Widened hallways, a new bedroom suite with an accessible bathroom, a kitchen with adjustable height counters. "You're changing your whole house?" she asked, surprised. "It wasn't designed for a wheelchair," Jackson explained. "Or for a child, really. I want it to be comfortable for when you visit." Something warmed inside Lily's chest. "That's a lot of work just for visits." Jackson hesitated before responding. "Well, someday. Perhaps you might want to stay longer." He quickly added, "Only if you wanted to, of course." Their relationship had developed its own rhythm. Tuesdays and Thursdays after school, Jackson would pick Lily up for a few hours. Saturdays were their special days. They'd gone to the botanical gardens, a children's museum, and last week, a concert in the park. Jackson had learned to navigate the world with Lily's wheelchair in mind, calling ahead to check accessibility, carrying a portable ramp in his car, and becoming fiercely advocative when necessary. More importantly, he'd learned about Lily herself, her love of drawing, her talent for math, her secret dream of becoming a composer like her mother had encouraged. In the note, "I have something for you," Lily said, pulling a folded paper from her backpack. It was a drawing of Jackson's house, but reimagined with colorful flowers, a treehouse with a wheelchair lift, and a music room with large windows. "It's beautiful," Jackson said, genuinely moved. "Is this how you see the house becoming?" Lily nodded shyly. "The treehouse might be hard, though." "Nothing's impossible," Jackson replied with a wink. "Just challenging." Later, as they shared ice cream in the courtyard, Lily asked the question that had been growing in her mind. "Jackson, what would happen if I lived with you?" He nearly dropped his spoon. "You've been thinking about that?" "Sometimes," she admitted. "But then I think about Mrs. Harrison and everyone here and I get confused." Jackson set his ice cream aside and took Lily's hand. "Family isn't always about choosing one person over another. Sometimes it's about making a bigger circle. Like How Mrs. Harrison could still be important even if I lived with you? Exactly, Jackson nodded. I'd want her to always be part of your life. Part of our lives. That evening, after Jackson left, Mrs. Harrison found Lily staring at the house blueprints he'd left behind. Big plans, Mrs. Harrison commented, sitting beside her. He's changing everything for me, Lily said quietly. Nobody's ever done that before. Mrs. Harrison smiled gently. That's what parents do, sweetheart. They reshape their world to make room for their children. For the first time, Lily allowed herself to imagine a future beyond Sunflower Home. A future with a father who had found her against impossible odds and was now rebuilding his life, piece by piece, to include her in it. Lily, are we friends now? Jackson asked one afternoon as they sat in the garden behind his house. The renovations were underway, with construction crews working inside while they enjoyed the autumn sunshine. Lily considered the question seriously, her fingers tracing patterns on the arm of her wheelchair. I think so. But it's different than friends at school. How so? Jackson asked, genuinely curious about how she perceived their relationship. Well, Lily tilted her head thoughtfully. Friends share secrets and play games, but they don't rebuild their houses for each other. Jackson laughed softly. Fair point. And they don't look at each other the way you look at me sometimes, Lily added. How do I look at you? Like you're trying to memorize my face, she said simply. Like you're afraid I might disappear. Jackson's breath caught. Leave it to a child to articulate exactly what he couldn't. You're very perceptive. Mrs. Harrison says I notice things others don't. Lily hesitated before asking, would it be okay if I called you Dad instead of Jackson? The question hung in the air between them, weighty with significance. Jackson felt his eyes grow moist. I would be honored, he said, his voice thick with emotion. More than you can possibly know. Lily smiled, looking pleased but also shy about the momentous shift. I've never had a dad before, I'm not sure how it works. Well, Jackson said, clearing his throat, I'm new at being a father, so perhaps we can figure it out together. That Saturday, Jackson took Lily to the hospital where he worked. He'd arranged for a special tour, introducing her to his colleagues and showing her the pediatric wing where he sometimes operated. Dr. Bennett, a nurse, approached them, smiling warmly. Is this the famous Lily we've heard so much about? Indeed it is, Jackson replied proudly. Lily, this is Nurse Chen. She's the best pediatric nurse in the state. Your father talks about you constantly, Nurse Chen told Lily with a wink. He's shown your artwork to everyone on staff. Lily blushed, surprised and pleased. He has? Oh, yes, he's quite the proud father. As they continued their tour, Lily noticed how differently people treated Jackson when she was with him. The formal, somewhat distant surgeon they initially greeted softened into a more approachable person when introducing his daughter. Later that day, Jackson had a quiet conversation with Mrs. Harrison while Lily attended her weekly art class. I've been thinking, he said carefully, about formally pursuing adoption. Mrs. Harrison nodded, unsurprised. I thought you might be heading in that direction. Lily mentioned she started calling you Dad. Yes, Jackson couldn't help smiling. It's everything hearing that word. You understand there will be a thorough evaluation process, Mrs. Harrison cautioned. Single fathers adopting daughters with medical needs face extra scrutiny. I'm prepared for that, Jackson assured her. I've already consulted with a family attorney. Mrs. Harrison studied him thoughtfully. You know, when we first met at the cemetery, I was terrified you might disrupt Lily's life only to disappear again. I'm glad I was wrong. I'm not going anywhere, Jackson said firmly. Lily is my daughter, the only family I have left in this world. Nothing matters more than making a home with her. 3 months after their first meeting, Lily woke with a sharp pain in her back. By breakfast, her face was pale and drawn, her usually bright eyes dulled with discomfort. I think we should call Jackson, Mrs. Harrison said, noticing Lily barely touched her cereal. This doesn't seem like your usual muscle spasms, but he has an important surgery today. Lily protested weakly. He told me about it yesterday. Despite her objections, Mrs. Harrison called Jackson, who immediately canceled his appointments. Within 30 minutes, he was at Sunflower Home, his face tight with concern. "How long has the pain been happening?" he asked, kneeling beside Lily's. "Wheelchair. Since I woke up," Lily admitted. "But it's getting worse." Jackson gently examined her, his physician's calm belying the worry in his eyes. "I'd like to take her to the hospital," he told Mrs. Harrison. "It could be related to her spinal condition." "Of course," Mrs. Harrison agreed. "I'll get her things and come with you." "That's not necessary," Jackson replied quickly. "I can handle this. Medical situations are my specialty, after all." Mrs. Harrison frowned. "Lily might feel more comfortable with me there." "Dad's right," Lily interjected, using the title that still felt new on her tongue. "He's a doctor. He knows what to do." The hurt that flashed across Mrs. Harrison's face was brief but unmistakable. "Of course, sweetheart. I'll be here when you get back." At the hospital, everything moved with dizzying speed. Jackson's status as chief surgeon opened doors immediately. Lily was whisked through triage, examined by specialists, and scheduled for an MRI within the hour. When the radiologist mentioned a possible complication with Lily's spinal shunt, Jackson's professional demeanor cracked slightly. "Why wasn't this monitored more closely?" he demanded, reviewing her charts. "These symptoms don't develop overnight." "Dr. Bennett," the neurologist said calmly, "childhood shunts often require adjustments as patients grow. The orphanage has been diligent with her regular checkups." Lily, lying on the examination table, felt tears welling. "Is Mrs. Harrison in trouble?" she asked in a small voice. The doctors exchanged glances, suddenly remembering the child at the center of their medical discussion. "No, sweetheart," the neurologist assured her. "No one's in trouble. This is just something we need to fix." Hours later, Lily underwent a minor procedure to adjust her shunt. Jackson never left her side, holding her hand until the anesthesia took effect and being the first face she saw upon waking. "Everything went perfectly," he told her. "You were so brave." Through the haze of medication, Lily asked, "Did you call Mrs. Harrison?" Jackson's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. "I've been focused on your care. I'll update her once you're settled." That evening, as Lily drifted in and out of sleep in her private hospital room, she overheard raised voices in the hallway. "I understand you're her father," Mrs. Harrison was saying, her normally gentle voice strained. "But I've cared for Lily for 9 years. Being excluded from decisions about her health is unacceptable. I made medically sound decisions in an emergency." Jackson responded defensively. "As her father and a physician, as her father, yes, but being a doctor made you overconfident. Did you even consider how frightened she must have been, surrounded by strangers with medical equipment?" Later, through half-closed eyes, Lily watched Mrs. Harrison and Jackson sitting silently on opposite sides of her bed, the tension between them palpable. For the first time since finding her father, Lily felt truly afraid, not of her medical condition, but of being torn between the two people she loved most. The morning sunlight filtered through the hospital blinds, casting soft stripes across Lily's bed. She had spent 2 nights in the pediatric ward, and although the doctors were pleased with her recovery, the tension between Jackson and Mrs. Harrison remained palpable. Lily watched as they sat on opposite sides of her room, Mrs. Harrison knitting quietly while Jackson reviewed medical charts on his tablet. They had barely spoken directly to each other since their argument in the hallway. "Am I going back to Sunflower Home today?" Lily asked, breaking the uncomfortable silence. Both adults looked up simultaneously. "The doctors want to monitor you for 1 more day," Jackson said. "But you'll be home soon, sweetheart," Mrs. Harrison added, emphasizing the word home in a way that didn't escape Jackson's notice. Lily fidgeted with her blanket. "Could you both stop being mad at each other? Please?" The directness of her question caught them off guard. Mrs. Harrison set her knitting down and Jackson put his tablet aside. "We're not mad, Lily," Mrs. Harrison began. "Yes, you are," Lily interrupted with the brutal honesty only children possess. "You're both angry and not talking, and it's worse than when my back hurt." Jackson and Mrs. Harrison exchanged glances, a wordless acknowledgement passing between them. "You're right," Jackson admitted, running a hand through his hair. "And I owe Mrs. Harrison an apology." He turned to the woman who had raised his daughter. "I was arrogant and exclusionary. In my rush to help Lily medically, I forgot that there's more to caring for a child than making clinical decisions. You've been her constant support for 9 years, and I should have respected that." Mrs. Harrison's expression softened. "And I should have recognized that your medical expertise was exactly what Lily needed in that moment. I let my fear and hurt feelings overtake my judgment. The truth is," Jackson continued, moving to sit beside Lily's bed, "I was terrified when I heard she was in pain. It felt like I might lose her all over again before I'd really even had a chance to be her father." "I understand that fear, Mrs." Harrison nodded. "I've felt it many times over the years when she's gotten sick or had complications." Lily looked between them. "So you're not fighting about who gets to take care of me?" "No, sweetheart," Mrs. Harrison assured her. "We both want what's best for you." "What we need," Jackson suggested, "is to work together instead of seeing this as a competition." The pediatric neurologist chose that moment to enter, carrying Lily's updated chart. Dr. Patel had been overseeing Lily's case since her admission and had witnessed the tension between the adults. "Good morning, everyone," she greeted them. "I have good news. The shunt adjustment is working perfectly, and Lily's spinal fluid pressure has stabilized. She can be discharged tomorrow morning." "That's wonderful," Mrs. Harrison said, squeezing Lily's hand. "However," Dr. Patel continued, looking specifically at Jackson, "I do have some concerns about her long-term care plan. Her condition requires consistent monitoring and a stable environment. The back and forth between 2 residences might not be ideal during her recovery period." An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Jackson stared at the floor, his expression unreadable. "What would you recommend, doctor?" he finally asked, his voice quieter than usual. "A single primary residence for at least the next few weeks, with a consistent care routine," Dr. Patel replied. "Lily needs stability right now." After the doctor left, the implications of her words hung heavily in the air. Lily looked worriedly between the 2 adults she loved most in the world. "Does that mean I can't see one of you?" she asked, her voice small. Jackson moved to sit on the edge of her bed. "No, Lily. It just means we need to be smarter about how we handle things." He turned to Mrs. Harrison. "I've been so focused on building a relationship with Lily and making plans for our future that I've overlooked the importance of transition and stability." Mrs. Harrison nodded thoughtfully. "And I think I've been unconsciously afraid of losing her, which made me more defensive than I should have been." Jackson took a deep breath. "My house renovations won't be completed for another month. What if Lily remains at Sunflower Home during her recovery, and I visit daily? I could even take a leave of absence from the hospital to be more available." "You'd do that?" Lily asked, surprised. "But you love being a doctor." "I love being your father more," Jackson replied simply. Mrs. Harrison smiled, the first genuine smile she'd offered Jackson in days. "And I could help you learn more about Lily's daily care routine. There are little things I've learned over the years, how she sleeps better with a specific pillow arrangement, how certain foods trigger her muscle spasms." "I'd appreciate that," Jackson said sincerely. "I have medical knowledge, but you have Lily knowledge. They're both essential." Lily watched this exchange with growing relief, the knot of anxiety in her stomach finally beginning to unravel. She reached out, taking both their hands in hers. "Does this mean you're friends now?" she asked hopefully. Jackson and Mrs. Harrison exchanged looks over Lily's bed, a new understanding forming between them. "I think," Mrs. Harrison said carefully, "we're becoming something better than friends." "We're becoming family," Jackson finished, squeezing Lily's hand. "A different kind of family perhaps, but family nonetheless." For the first time since her hospitalization, Lily truly smiled. The 2 people she loved most were no longer on opposite sides of her room. or her life. The next 3 weeks brought a new rhythm to Lily's life. Jackson visited Sunflower Home daily, sometimes arriving early for breakfast and staying until bedtime. He rearranged his entire schedule, taking a temporary leave from the hospital to focus solely on Lily's recovery. Today they sat in the garden as autumn leaves drifted around them. Jackson was helping Lily with her physical therapy exercises, carefully guiding her legs through the stretches her therapist had prescribed. "You're getting stronger," he observed, noting how she could maintain certain positions longer than before. "Doctor, Patel says I might be able to use the parallel bars soon," Lily replied, her face flushed with effort but determined. Jackson nodded encouragingly. "One day at a time. No rushing." His approach had shifted dramatically since their hospital experience, where once he might have pushed for aggressive treatments. Now he followed Lily's lead, celebrating small victories without fixating on a specific outcome. "I have some news," he said as they finished the exercises. "The house renovations will be completed next week. Everything's ready, your bedroom, bathroom, the kitchen adaptations, even a ramp to the backyard." Lily brightened. "Can we visit and see it?" Actually, Jackson hesitated. "I was hoping we could talk about something more permanent." He pulled a folder from his bag and opened it to reveal official-looking documents. "These are adoption papers. I've been working with a lawyer to make you legally my daughter, not just biologically." Lily stared at the papers, her expression a mixture of wonder and uncertainty. "What would change if you adopted me?" "Legally. Everything. You'd have my last name if you wanted it. You'd live with me permanently. I'd be responsible for all your decisions until you're an adult." "What about Mrs. Harrison and Sunflower Home?" Lily asked, her voice small. "They'd always be part of our lives," Jackson assured her. "Mrs. Harrison has agreed to help us transition, and she'd visit often. You could still see your friends here anytime." Lily traced the edges of the papers with her finger. "Would I have to decide right now?" "Absolutely not," Jackson replied gently. "This is a big decision. Take all the time you need." That evening, Mrs. Harrison found Lily in her room, surrounded by photographs of her mother, of Jackson, and several from Sunflower Home's annual picnics and holiday celebrations. "Sorting memories?" Mrs. Harrison asked, sitting beside her. "Dad showed me the adoption papers today," Lily said, still getting used to calling Jackson Dad. "I'd have to leave here." Mrs. Harrison nodded, her eyes soft with understanding. "Changes, even good ones, can be scary." "What if I make the wrong choice?" Lily whispered. "What if I move in with him and he realizes how hard it is taking care of me all the time?" "Oh, sweetheart," Mrs. Harrison pulled her into a gentle hug. "Your father knows exactly what he's committing to. He's spent these weeks learning every detail of your care." "But what if it's wonderful?" Mrs. Harrison interrupted gently. "What if this is the beginning of the life you were always meant to have?" Later, as Jackson was saying goodnight, Lily gripped his hand tightly. "When I come live with you," she said, her voice steadier than before, "can Mrs. Harrison have her own room to stay in sometimes?" Jackson smiled, hearing the decision within her question. "I was thinking the blue room across from yours would be perfect for her visits." "And can we put some of Mom's pictures in the hallway?" "Absolutely. It's your home too, Lily. We'll build it together." As he left that night, Jackson passed Mrs. Harrison in the hallway. Their eyes met in mutual understanding. The journey ahead would be challenging, but together they would create something beautiful. A family built not just of blood, but of choice and commitment. The morning of the move dawned bright and clear, a perfect late autumn day. Lily sat in the Sunflower Home common room, surrounded by 9 years' worth of accumulated belongings, clothes, books, art supplies, and mementos from her childhood. Each item had been carefully packed in boxes decorated by the other children with colorful drawings and well wishes. "I think that's everything," Mrs. Harrison said, checking the final inventory list. She maintained her cheerful demeanor, though Lily noticed her eyes were slightly red from the tears she'd shed earlier in private. The other children gathered around, some excited for Lily, others trying to understand why their friend was leaving. "Timothy," A 7-year-old who had always looked up to Lily handed her a crudely wrapped package. "It's so you don't forget us," he explained as she unwrapped a framed photo of all the Sunflower Home children from their summer picnic. "I could never forget any of you," Lily promised, hugging him tightly. Jackson arrived precisely at 10 o'clock, his SUV newly equipped with a wheelchair ramp. The vehicle was already half filled with items he'd purchased for Lily's new bedroom, additional bookshelves, art supplies, and a digital keyboard he hoped might awaken her mother's musical legacy. When he entered the common room, Jackson was struck by the bittersweet atmosphere. This was a joyous day. His daughter was coming home. But for the Sunflower Home community, it meant saying goodbye to a beloved member. "We have a tradition here," Mrs. Harrison explained, gathering everyone in a circle. "When one of our children finds their forever family, we have a special ceremony." One by one, the children and staff members shared their favorite memories of Lily. Her kindness when Timothy had nightmares, her patience helping younger children with homework, her courage during difficult medical procedures. By the time the last person spoke, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. "Sunflower Home has been my family for as long as I can remember," Lily said when her turn came. "Just because I'm leaving doesn't mean that changes. You taught me what family really means, people who love you no matter what." She turned to Jackson, who stood respectfully at the edge of the circle. "And now my family is getting bigger, not different." Jackson stepped forward, addressing the group with unexpected emotion in his voice. "I want to thank all of you for raising my daughter when I couldn't. You've given her something I never could have. Siblings, community, and unconditional acceptance. Our door will always be open to each of you." He knelt beside Mrs. Harrison, taking her hands in his. "Especially you. You're not losing Lily. You're gaining a family too." As they loaded the last boxes into the car, Mrs. Harrison handed Jackson a thick binder. "Lily's entire history," she explained. "Medical records, school reports, art projects from each year, and—" She paused, her voice catching. "A journal I've kept since she arrived, documenting all her milestones and special moments." Jackson was momentarily speechless, overwhelmed by this precious gift. The 9 years of his daughter's life he had missed, preserved through Mrs. Harrison's loving attention to detail. "I can never thank you enough," he finally managed. "Just love her?" Mrs. Harrison replied simply. "That's all the thanks I need." The journey to their new home was filled with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Lily gazed out the window, watching Sunflower Home recede in the distance while Jackson pointed out landmarks along the way. The park where they might have picnics, the school she would attend after winter break, the ice cream shop he'd discovered, made accommodations for wheelchair users. As they turned onto the tree-lined street leading to Jackson's house, now their house, he glanced at Lily in the rearview mirror. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. "Just thinking," she replied, "about how strange life is. A few months ago I didn't even know you existed. Now we're going to live together." "Life takes unexpected turns," Jackson agreed. "Sometimes painful ones like losing your mother and our years apart, but sometimes wonderful ones too." When they pulled into the driveway, Lily gasped. The house had been transformed from the austere, museum-like residence she'd first visited. The front entrance now featured a gently sloping ramp bordered by colorful autumn flowers. A banner hung across the front door reading, "Welcome home, Lily," in hand-painted letters, but what truly caught her attention was the group waiting on the porch. Jackson's colleagues from the hospital, a few neighbors he had introduced her to, and at the center, Mrs. Harrison, who had driven ahead to help with the surprise welcome. "How did you get here before us?" "Get here before?" Lily asked, astonished as Jackson helped her into her wheelchair. "Your father and I planned this together," Mrs. Harrison explained with a smile. "You didn't think I'd miss your first moments in your new home, did you?" As they toured the renovated house, Lily was amazed by the thoughtfulness of every detail. Her bedroom was painted in her favorite shade of lavender, with accessible shelves at the perfect height for her to reach from her chair. The bathroom featured specially designed fixtures that would allow her increasing independence, But the true surprise waited in what had once been Jackson's formal dining room. The space had been converted into a music and art studio, with an adaptive piano, art supplies, and on the wall, a large portrait of Olivia at her own piano. "This is where your mother created her music," Jackson explained softly. "It seemed right that you should have a similar space to create your own." Standing in this room, surrounded by people who loved her, with her mother's spirit present in the portrait's gentle smile, Lily felt something she had never fully experienced before, a sense of belonging, of coming home not just to a place, but to herself. "Thank you, Dad," she whispered, reaching for his hand. Jackson knelt beside her wheelchair, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "We have a lot of time to make up for you and I," he said. "But we have all the time in the world to do it." That night, after the guests had departed and Mrs. Harrison had reluctantly said goodbye, promising to return the next day, Lily and Jackson sat on the back porch watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. "Do you think Mom can see us?" Lily asked suddenly. Jackson considered this, remembering Olivia's spiritual nature, her belief that love transcended physical boundaries. "I think," he said carefully, "that your mother's love is still here with us. In you, in me, in the space between us that was empty for so long and isn't anymore." Lily nodded, satisfied with this answer. Together, father and daughter sat in comfortable silence, two once broken pieces of a family finding their way back to wholeness. The day of the custody hearing arrived with a crisp December chill. Jackson straightened his tie in the hallway mirror, trying to project a confidence he didn't entirely feel. In the 3 months since Lily had moved in, they had established a beautiful routine together, but today everything could change. "Lily, are you ready?" he called, checking his watch. Their appointment at the family court was in less than an hour. Lily wheeled herself into the foyer, wearing the navy blue dress they had carefully chosen together. Her hair was neatly braided, and she clutched a small folder containing drawings she had made of their life together. Evidence, she had explained seriously, of why they belonged as a family. "I'm nervous," she admitted, fidgeting with the folder's edge. "What if the judge doesn't think you should be my dad?" Jackson knelt beside her wheelchair. "Remember what Mrs. Harrison said. Judges care about what's best for children. And we know that's us being together." The doorbell rang and Mrs. Harrison entered dressed in her finest suit. She had agreed to testify on Jackson's behalf, a gesture that had deeply touched him. "You both look perfect," she assured them, adjusting Lily's collar slightly. "Just be yourselves." The family court was less intimidating than Jackson had feared. The judges' chambers were designed to put children at ease, with comfortable furniture and subdued lighting. Judge Eleanor Winters, a gray-haired woman with kind eyes and a reputation for fairness in adoption cases, welcomed them warmly. "Dr. Bennett, I've reviewed your petition for adoption," she began after introductions. "Your case is unusual but compelling. I understand you're Lily's biological father, only recently reunited with her?" "Yes, Your Honor," Jackson confirmed. "Due to a hospital error, I was informed that Lily had died along with her mother during childbirth. I only discovered the truth 3 months ago." The judge turned to Lily. "And how do you feel about this adoption, young lady?" Lily straightened in her wheelchair. "I want Dr. Bennett to be my dad officially," she said with clear conviction. "He already is my dad in my heart." Judge Winters smiled before turning to Mrs. Harrison. "And as Lily's former guardian, you support this petition?" "Wholeheartedly," Mrs. Harrison affirmed. "Dr. Bennett has proven himself completely devoted to Lily's well-being. The bond between them is remarkable, especially given the short time they've known each other." The proceedings continued smoothly until the courtroom door opened, and a slender woman in expensive clothes entered with a lawyer at her side. "Your Honor," the lawyer interrupted, "I'm Richard Morton, representing Mrs. Victoria Lawson, maternal aunt of Lily Montgomery. We're filing a counter-petition for custody." A shocked silence fell over the room. Jackson felt his heart drop as he turned to see the unfamiliar woman studying Lily with calculating eyes. "I was never notified about my niece," Victoria stated coldly. "I only learned of her existence last month, through a chance meeting with A former colleague of my sister's. Judge Winters frowned at the interruption but allowed Victoria to present her case. As she spoke, the picture became clear. She had no real relationship with Lily but objected to a single father raising her niece, especially one with a demanding career. A child with special needs requires constant care, Victoria argued. Dr. Bennett's profession makes that impossible. I can provide a stable two-parent home with financial security. Jackson's lawyer countered with evidence of the accommodations he'd made, his reduced surgery schedule, the house renovations, the support network he'd built for Lily. Throughout this unexpected battle, Lily sat increasingly distressed, tears welling in her eyes as adults discussed her future as if she weren't present. Your Honor, she finally said, her small voice cutting through the arguments. May I please say something? Judge Winters nodded, silencing the lawyers with a raised, and Lily wheeled herself forward, clutching her folder. I never knew I had an aunt, she began, her voice trembling slightly. And she never tried to find me all these years. My dad didn't know I was alive, but as soon as he found out, he changed everything to make a place for me. She opened her folder, showing the judge her drawings, Jackson helping with her physical therapy, their dinner times together, the piano lessons he'd arranged. He doesn't see my wheelchair first like most people do, Lily continued, gaining confidence. He sees me, and he loves me enough to learn how to braid my hair even though he's terrible at it. A ripple of gentle laughter broke the tension in the room. Mrs. Lawson might have a bigger house or more money, Lily concluded, but Dad and I are already a family. Please don't take that away from us. The simplicity and honesty of her plea left the room silent. Victoria Lawson shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware of how her intervention appeared through a child's eyes. After a brief recess, Judge Winters returned with her decision. In matters of adoption, the welfare of the child is paramount, she began. I've reviewed all evidence and testimony, including Lily's courageous statement. She turned to Victoria Lawson. Mrs. Lawson, while I appreciate your concern for your niece, your petition appears motivated more by obligation than genuine connection. Family is more than blood relation. It's presence, commitment, and love. Finally, she addressed Jackson. Dr. Bennett, you have demonstrated extraordinary dedication to becoming the father Lily deserves. The adjustments you've made to your life speak volumes about your priorities. With a warm smile, she concluded, It is this court's decision to approve Dr. Jackson Bennett's petition to adopt Lily Montgomery. Congratulations to you both. The formality of the courtroom dissolved as Lily launched herself from her wheelchair into Jackson's arms, an unprecedented feat of strength born from pure joy. Jackson caught her, tears streaming down his face as he held his daughter, legally, completely and forever his daughter. Mrs. Harrison embraced them both, completing the unusual but perfect family circle they had formed. As they left the courthouse, Jackson carrying Lily down the steps while Mrs. Harrison folded her wheelchair, a light snow began to fall, the first of the season, transforming the world into something new and beautiful. It's just like in my drawing, Lily whispered into her father's ear. The one where we're all together under the snow. I made it before I even met you. Jackson held her tighter, marveling at how this child, his child, had somehow known all, along that someday, somehow they would find their way home to each other. 1 year later, snow fell gently outside the Bennett home, transforming the garden into a winter wonderland. Inside, warmth and laughter filled every room as Lily and Jackson prepared to celebrate their first Christmas anniversary, marking 1 year since the adoption had been finalized. The house had evolved over the months, losing its museum-like quality, to become a true home. Lily's artwork adorned the walls alongside framed photographs documenting their journey together. The piano in the music room showed signs of regular use, sheet music scattered across its surface as Lily rediscovered her mother's passion. Dad, have you seen my red sweater? Lily called, wheeling herself rapidly down the hallway. Mrs. Harrison will be here soon. Jackson emerged from the kitchen, flour dusting his sweater. Try the laundry room. I folded clothes last night. Their comfortable routine still amazed him daily, This ordinary domestic life he'd never imagined for himself had become his greatest joy. Watching Lily grow more confident each day, seeing her excel in her new school where accommodations were made without question, hearing her laughter echo through rooms that had once known only silence. These small miracles sustained him through the challenges they still faced. Lily's physical therapy continued with small but meaningful progress. She could now stand with support for short periods, though walking remained a distant goal. Jackson had learned to celebrate each milestone without pressuring her, understanding now that her determination and spirit were her greatest strengths, not potential medical interventions. "Found it," Lily announced triumphantly, returning with the sweater. She paused, noticing the flower on Jackson's clothes. "Are you actually baking?" "Attempting to," he admitted with a sheepish grin. "I wanted to surprise you with Christmas cookies. It's not going well." Lily laughed. "Let me help. Mom's recipe book said the secret is cold butter." Together they finished the cookie dough, working side by side at the kitchen counter Jackson had specially designed to accommodate her wheelchair. These moments of ordinary partnership were what Jackson treasured most, the easy comfort of belonging together. The doorbell announced Mrs. Harrison's arrival. She visited at least weekly, maintaining her important role in Lily's life while developing a warm friendship with Jackson. Today she carried packages wrapped in colorful paper and wore a festive red scarf. "Something smells wonderful," she commented, hanging her coat. "Dad's attempting Mom's Christmas cookies," Lily explained, exchanging a knowing look with Mrs. Harrison. "Attempting" being the operative word, Jackson added good-naturedly. As they moved to the living room where a Christmas tree sparkled with ornaments Lily had carefully selected, Mrs. Harrison handed them each a small package. "I thought we might exchange one gift early," she suggested. Lily's gift contained a handmade scrapbook chronicling her years at Sunflower Home. Birthday celebrations, school achievements, quiet moments that might otherwise have been forgotten. Jackson received a framed photograph he'd never seen before. Olivia, pregnant and radiant, standing in the nursery she'd prepared with such hope. "I found it among some old Sunflower Home records," Mrs. Harrison explained. "It was taken during Olivia's last visit when she made arrangements just in case." Jackson stared at the image of the woman he'd loved, carrying the child they'd both wanted so desperately. "Thank you," he whispered, emotion making his voice rough. "Our turn," Lily announced, wheeling to the desk where she removed a folder. "This is from both of us." Mrs. Harrison opened it to find legal documents. Jackson had established a foundation in Olivia's name to support children with physical disabilities and their adaptive needs. Mrs. Harrison was named as co-director. "You've devoted your life to caring for children who need extra support," Jackson explained. "We thought you might want to expand that mission." Mrs. Harrison's eyes filled with tears. "This is extraordinary." "That's not all," Lily added excitedly. "Show her, Dad." Jackson produced another document, architectural plans for an expanded wing at Sunflower Home, specifically designed with accessibility features. "The Olivia Bennett Wing," Mrs. Harrison read, her voice catching. "You're funding this?" "It's already approved by the board," Jackson confirmed. "Construction begins in spring." As they celebrated together, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. Jackson answered to find a courier delivering a legal envelope. He opened it with growing confusion, then shock. "What is it?" Lily asked, noticing his expression. "It's from Victoria Lawson." "Your aunt," he explained, reading further. "She's relinquishing all future claims to possible guardianship and—" He paused, amazed. "She's established a college trust fund for you." Enclosed was a brief note. "I was wrong to interfere in a family that was already whole. Please accept this as my way of ensuring Olivia's daughter has every opportunity in life. No strings attached." Later that evening, after Mrs. Harrison had gone home with promises to return for Christmas dinner, Jackson found Lily in her room, looking through her mother's old journal that they'd discovered during the house renovations, months earlier. "Finding anything interesting?" he asked, sitting beside her. "Mom wrote about the kind of person she hoped I would become," Lily said thoughtfully. "Brave, kind, Creative. Do you think she'd be happy with how I turned out? Jackson's heart swelled. With love and pride. She'd be amazed by you, Lily, just as I am every day. Lily closed the journal, her expression thoughtful. You know what I realized? A year ago, I thought finding my father was the most important part of our story. But now I understand it wasn't just about finding you. It was about you finding me, too. We found each other, Jackson agreed.